Hello everyone, so you want to learn Unreal Engine 5. Now this tutorial is a very quick and basic look at some of the tools that you have in Unreal Engine to build worlds. It's going to be a very hello world style tutorial where you get in and get out very quickly, and it's designed to give you a kind of a overview of how worlds are built in Unreal Engine in a very basic way. So you can use this tutorial as a stepping stone to watch other longer streams from some of my favorite content creators out there on YouTube. I'm just thinking over the top of my head here. Unreal Sensei, of course, and then Clint, Punisher, the streams. Then there's so many other people that I can name. I'll try and link as many of these as I can in the description. But anyway, let's get right into it. If you do a Google search for Unreal Engine, this is what is going to show up. The first link up here. This will take you to the page. And then once you make an Epic account here, you can press the download button, which will take you to this page. And then you can press this button here, which will let you download the launcher. Now, your launcher may not look like this. It may take you straight to the store. Don't worry, just press Unreal Engine on the left here, and then you will be greeted with this page. Now, on this page over here, we're not going to, of course, this is not an in-depth video, as I mentioned in the beginning. You want to press Library, and then you may not have any versions of Unreal Engine installed. If you do, I don't know why you'd have that, but I'm just assuming that you have no versions of Unreal Engine installed. But you press plus on this icon here, choose the version you want. I'm using 5.03, then hit the install button. This will start installing and downloading Unreal Engine for you. Then this install button will change to a launch button, and when you press that, you will be greeted with the Unreal project browser. Now over here, these are some templates that you can browse. These are all examples. They serve as kind of examples of how you would do a first-person game, third-person top-down, vehicle, handheld, and whatnot. But we're going to be using the third-person template over here, and you can just go ahead and name it whatever you want, and just make sure wherever you save this, you have a little bit of space, because Unreal Engine projects do swell a little bit, especially when you start adding things like Megascans in there and like downloading stuff on the marketplace. This size may increase. So just for the purposes of this demo, to keep it very short and sweet, I've just saved it on my desktop, and ray tracing is off, starter content is on, and I've got blueprint selected over here. Now, once you do all of this, and if you're using the third-person demo, you will be greeted with this interface. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the interface before we get right into it. This is your toolbar up here. This is your outliner showing you all the little bits and pieces that exist in your world. You have your details and your, I don't know why I had world partition there, but let's just go ahead and close it. But you have your details panel. These are going to give you details about any object you have selected. So this will give me the details for this particular cube, including its name. The content browser, sometimes, it used to be visible here, but now it's hidden in Unreal Engine 5. You do a control space and it kind of moves up from underneath, and you can dock this by pressing dock and layout. I'll just show that again in case that was too quick. Dock and layout, and then that will kind of be an Unreal Engine 4.27 kind of layout over here. To navigate this viewport, what you're going to do is you're going to right click and hold with your mouse button, and then you can go left and right, W, S, A, and D to move, kind of your standard game controls, but you can also use Q to go down and E to move up. While you're moving, if you feel the speed is too fast for you, there's this button up here called camera speed. You can drop this down to 2 and 1, and then it's going to kind of slow down its speed. You can also dynamically change the camera speed by while you're moving. If you move the mouse wheel upwards, it's going to then increase the speed. If you move the mouse wheel downwards, it's going to decrease the speed. So I leave this at about 3 and 4, depending on what I'm comfortable with and what environment I'm working on. But that's where the camera speed is. Now, I'll just talk a little bit about some of the tools we're going to be using in this video. So we're going to be using the move tool, the rotate tool, the scale tool, and we'll be using a few more tools. And I guess when I encounter each one of them, we're going to be talking about it. But to place an object inside this world, you will just hit this quickly add to project button, go over to shapes, drag and drop there. That's a cube. You want to put a light, point light, goes and drops a point light. And that's how you add stuff in this world. So that's how you can drop stuff in Unreal Engine. You can put cubes, you can put objects down there. And of course, you have the ability to rotate these objects. If you want to rotate it on one specific axis, you just click and drag the particular disk associated with that color. So X is red, Y is green, Z is blue. If you're ever confused about that, it's also visible down here. Now that's kind of a very quick look into how we are going to be placing and manipulating the objects in this world. And now we'll get right into making our own little environment. So the first thing I'm going to do is I need a new environment over here. Oh, by the way, before we get into that, if you hit the play button up here, you can also just play your environment. You can, because we're using the third person demo, it's going to drop in a third person character, and then you can use WS, A, and D and space. You know, it kind of just runs your game, so to speak. But let's get right into the environment creation part. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on File, New Level, and I'm going to choose Basic and then Create. It's going to ask me to save. I didn't make any changes, so it's fine. This is what you get when you make a basic level in Unreal Engine. There's nothing here. It's just a plane, and it sets up this. I'm slurring. It sets up this beautiful sky for you. Now, if you want to change the position of the sun, you hold right control and L, and that'll give you the sun tool that you can move your mouse around to kind of position the sun wherever you want it to be. So you can use that as well when we get into kind of positioning the sun for best effect in our world. This is what we have. We have nothing here right now, and we're going to get right into building this. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and click on this plane and hit the delete button. And then we're going to go select mode up here and click on landscape. Now, when I click on landscape over here, this is the landscape creation panel that shows up. This may not be set to 31 by 31. It may start off by 63 by 63, but we can just use 31. This is basically going to be the size of your landscape. You know, if you choose a 7 by 7 and you hit create, this is what you get. And I can go in and press play, and you can see it's quite large, but it's not as large as we want it to be. So I'm going to go out of landscape mode, click on this, hit delete, and then go back into landscape mode. And then I'm going to choose 31 by 31 and hit create. Now what this does is this gives you an empty kind of plane here that you can sculpt. Your sculpting tools are up here. You can see we've got sculpt selected, sculpt, smooth, flatten. These are all tools that you can use to kind of shape your landscape. Now in this demo, we're not going for a completely fleshed out landscape. So I'm just going to go as quickly as I can. I'm going to change my brush size to 4000. And let's set this to 0.3. And I'm just going to quickly just kind of try to fill this up as much as I can. Again, I'm not trying to make this as fleshed out, like a completely, like an environment creation masterclass, so to speak. It's just designed to get you using some of the tools in Unreal. So you can see that's how the sculpt works. As soon as you click, it adds, and then if you hold shift, it deletes. It kind of subtracts. So it's kind of like working with clay, so to speak. Then you can use smooth to kind of smoothen out areas. You can use flatten to flatten areas. So you can have fun with this. But in our environment that we're going to make here, I'm just going to kind of drag flatten through this. So it's kind of, we're just going to create this this canyon, so to speak, here. So we've got this canyon created here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on sculpt, and I'm just going to maybe add just some more mountains on the left and right of this. Nothing fancy. I'm just going with whatever works best. And then you can also use this erosion tool here to kind of create some sort of landscape erosion that may have occurred in this canyon. So I've just gone in and kind of filled in the right over here using the same tools that we talked about. When landscape is something that you can spend more time on or less time on, depending on how much fun you're having with it. But ultimately, for the purposes of this video, I'm going to try and call it here. So now we have our landscape, and the first thing we have to do is obviously put some texture on this. Now, in Unreal Engine, you can click on Window and click on Quixel Bridge, and this will give you access to all the Megascans and all the amazing assets that Quixel gives us. And they're free to use with Unreal Engine 5. They're integrated into it, as you can see. So you can choose all these different things that you want to work with. Now over here, you can go over to Collections, Environment, Natural, and go down to all of these. And there's a whole lot of biomes here that you can get all these amazing assets and amazing surfaces from. Once you've picked something that you like, you can click on it, and then you can choose the quality down here that you want to download, and then hit the download button. Once it's been downloaded, it'll turn into a tick, and then you can press this blue button over here to add it to your project. Now, once it gets downloaded, it also gets added to your local library. So if you click on local over here, let me just minimize this. If you click on local, these are all the assets that I've kept downloading. Now, if you want to choose where this local library lives on your computer, because obviously as you keep adding assets to this is going to take up space on your computer. So you can click up here and go to preferences, and then you can choose where this library lives on your computer. Of course, Goes without saying, it's a good idea to have some space there. But anyway, we're going to go and get some materials for us. So I think I'm going to go with Tundra Mossy Ground. I think that's the one I want to use. Or let's actually see if there's any other interesting ones over here. What about this one? I think Rocky. Yeah, I think I'll go with this. Okay, Rocky Wild Grass. And then I'll hit the add button over here. And that's going to then basically bring up the folder that it gets added to. Now, where does this live in your project? If you click on all in the content browser and you go over to content, there'll be a folder there called Megascans. And within this, you can see that there'll be assets, plants, and surfaces as you keep adding things to this. I've obviously downloaded all of these in advance to save time, but I've got here this rocky wild grass material over here. Now, if you want to add this to your landscape, there's two ways to do it. Firstly, you want to click on your landscape. After exiting the mode, you don't want to be doing this inside of the landscape mode, but let's exit this. And you want to click on your landscape, and then you want to go down to the details panel over here, which says landscape material. Now over here, what we're going to do is we're just going to click on MI Rocky Wild Grass, and you can either drag and drop it in here, or you can select this and then press on this this icon over here, which uses the selected asset from the content browser. Okay, so that's going to basically give you this result. Now, this isn't looking too great because, of course, the tiling is a problem. The tiling basically refers to how many times the texture is getting repeated on the landscape. So it's getting repeated too much now. So we have to reduce the amount of repetitions. And we can do that by double clicking on this sphere here representing the material or the material instance to be specific. And it's going to give you this window. Now, in this window, you're looking for global and you're looking for a setting called tiling offset. You just want to check that to make that, to enable that. And then you can just use a lower number. So 0.1, 0.1, and you can see that's looking better already. Right, so you can go even lower, 0.05, 0.05. You don't want to go too high with this because if you go, too low with this, because then it starts looking like the texture is too large for the landscape, right? So pick something that visually looks closer to what you want to make, and then you can, of course, press play, and you can also walk around this landscape. Collision and everything works really well. So we have our landscape, we have some texture on it. Now let's go and start building on what we've just created. And I don't know why my project decided to just drop FPS there for a second, but anyway. So we have our landscape, everything is looking pretty great. Now what we can do is we can use those Megascans again, and we can download some really nice rocks. I'm using Tundra Rocky Ground, two of these, and I think I'm using the Tundra Mossy Boulder. So I'm just going to go and check under Megascans, 3D assets. The download process is the same. You're just going to click on Tundra Rocky Ground, click on download. I'm using Nanite. You can use whatever quality works with your system specs, low, medium, high quality, but I'm using Nanite and downloaded. It's been downloaded already. And then I've gone ahead and already clicked add to project. So you can see under the Megascans, I have Tundra Mossy Boulder and Tundra Mossy Rock Formation. So over here, if you double click on this folder, you will get a whole lot of textures, a material for it as well, but you get this light blue object here, which is effectively a static mesh. So I'm just going to drag and drop it in there. And then of course I can place this anywhere I want to. You can see it looks really great. Okay, so what I'm going to go ahead and do first is just kind of scale this up a little bit. It's set to 1 by default. We're just going to use 10. And I'm just going to use that to kind of fill in and add some details. The reason why we're doing this, by the way, is because you can see that this landscape is pretty much flat. There's no sort of deformation or any protrusions on this landscape. So we're going to use this particular asset from Quixel to give us that displacement or those protrusions, those details on the surface in our landscape. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is just kind of place these here. It's fine if they're going into the mesh. Now, if you want to rotate this or move it in the direction that it's facing, you can cycle between local and world gizmos here. So the transform gizmo, you can see this is the local and the world. So if I do that, all my rotation and move gizmos also all kind of change. So I'll keep cycling between these two until I get something that I'm happy with. And let's just be really quick about this. So I've got one here. I'm trying to cover up these edges here. So we'll just go 1 and then let's just maybe move it a little bit out here. Kind of like that. I'm happy with it. Alt if you hold the Alt button and you drag, it makes a copy. So we just make a copy of this, flip it over. And again, we just basically are repeating the process over here, right? So there's no right or wrong way to do this. We're just having fun in this first kind of foray into Unreal, and just enjoy yourself. Remember, this is not meant to be a perfect photoreal environment that you may or may not have seen on places like ArtStation or people's portfolios. This is you just having fun and enjoying the ability to drop in a photo scanned asset that is absolutely high detailed. Like if you look at this is very nice, and you're just in real time making these changes without having to go back and render stuff. This is all being done instantaneously almost. So again, Alt and drag. I'm just going to try and add as much detail. And again, when you're following along, you can change up the asset. You can use a different rock asset. I just want you to have as much fun as you can with this, because that's really why I enjoy even when I'm working on longer environments. It'll start off very simple, and then it'll take a longer period of time, because I'll just end up putting on some music and just kind of placing assets. And if I'm modeling my own assets, I'll figure something out, but change it up a little bit. Maybe on this particular rock formation we can use 12 on the scale, and I've just gone down here and I've just changed the scaling number from 10 to 12, just to kind of differentiate things and hide any sort of repetitions we may have. Like you can see here, it's very obvious that this is repeating a little bit. So what we could do is we could actually have it like this instead, a little bit like this. And then finally, just to close things off, we can rotate this around, and let's move it here. Let's rotate this a little bit like this. And then we kind of block off this. Now I'm not happy with this area over here, this particular area. I'm not sure if it's going to be very clear on YouTube, but this particular area over here. So I'll just try and again create more rocky formations that I can then use to block this off. Something like that. So you can see if we go ground level here, this is looking pretty okay for a first kind of very, very simple, quick environment. And I'm just going to go and fill up this right side as well. So again, same process. I'm just using the same one asset. Let's switch over to global over here, and just kind of move this to a point that I'm happy with. Switch back into global, something like this. Now again, the key thing you're looking for is these edges over here. We don't want that plane kind of sticking out. Now over here, the reason why we added this piece is we don't want the horizon to be visible, because if you press play now here, kind of looks let me just go and delete that. I don't know why it showed up there, but why is that rock showing up there? Am I facing the wrong way? Let me just minimize this. Yeah, okay, let's delete this. There was a rock there, but if I press play, you can see that edge over there, and that kind of looks strange. So it's nicer when you can just go ahead and block your horizon. So we just go and bring this over, maybe something like this, and we can kind of put it in here like so. And again, over here, maybe you could rotate this a little bit just to give it some maybe that area. You can see it's a crevice there, so to speak, and then we can just alt and drag this over like so, like this. So it looks okay. We're filling it up now. We just don't want these edges over here, and maybe I can alt and drag even more of these till I reach a point that I'm somewhat happy with, because the player is not going to come up here. The player is only going to be seeing this from the ground level, so it needs to be looking good from that ground level. So this is what we have right now, and I'm again not happy with this back area over here. It looks kind of plain. We don't want to be showing too much of that landscape, so to speak. Okay, so we'll maybe put one more over here, one more piece over here. Just move it back like so. And then I can just alt and drag this guy, rotate him, and then just place it over here like this. So we get this kind of filled landscape, so to speak, right? So we have all of this. And again, if you don't like this, you can, again, like I've been doing, you can just alt and drag or reposition this a little better. You know, maybe you could pull this out a little bit and then rotate it. So you get something that's a little bit more, you know, it's filled up a little bit more. So once we're done with this, we're just going to hit play, and you can see this is what we have. We have this landscape, so to speak, and we also have, oh, that looks really bad. So let's go on and fix that. Maybe get more detail out of this, like so. And let's actually pull this guy out as well, now that I think about it. Okay. So, yeah, just going to, again, you can see I may forget that some areas, some edges are visible, like this guy over here. So we can just kind of pull this back. Okay, so we hit play, and you can see we've got some protrusions. We've got a little area, a little section of the landscape with some nice Megascans, and our landscape has a texture on it. So we've already created something very quickly. Now I'll just talk about some of the other tools that you have at your disposal. So we've dropped in some textures in there. We've dropped in some Megascans in there. Now, if you want to use foliage in Unreal Engine, or like plants, you want to decorate some plants over here, you can do that using the foliage mode. Now, before you do that, if you just go to foliage mode, it's going to ask you for some foliage. You can also get that from Quixel Bridge. You can go over here, go over to home or collections, and just give it a second to load. Go over to vegetation, and there's a whole lot of plants that you can use here. In this particular demonstration, I am using, I believe it is the elderberry series of plants. Again, the download is going to be the same. Just going to go over here, highest quality, downloaded, press add, and then it's going to show up in your Megascans folder underneath 3D plants. Now, the way you're going to use foliage is you're going to go down to foliage. So again, select mode, foliage, and I've got these all set up here, but it may show up like this for you. Now, if it does show up like this for you, drop foliage here. You're going to go to Megascans 3D plants, elderberry, and there'll be a folder inside of elderberry called foliage. You're going to double click on foliage, Control A, and then drag and drop your foliage in there. Now, to place foliage, I'm just going to close my content browser. All you have to do is you have to just check this little checkbox over here. You just have to check the foliage that you want to be placing. So you can Alt A, check all of them like I've done, or you can go in and select individual ones that you want to spawn. So if you just go in and check all of them, then when you go over and press paint, depending on what brush size and paint density you have, you just have to click and drag, and it's going to drop in. It's going to start spawning foliage over here. Now, a little bit of advice here. Previously we've been downloading maximum quality foliage. Now, if you go over to Quixel Bridge, and when you go over to, for example, collections, let's go to vegetation and whatever, grass. Over here, just make sure that if you're using highest quality, when you're painting this thing, you need to keep an eye on your performance of the system. Like if at highest quality, because of the detail in that mesh, if you start painting a lot of foliage on your landscape, you're going to start seeing your computer and your overall experience lose FPS. So in this particular demo, I didn't use highest quality. In fact, I used high and medium. So when I downloaded that, you can get the right setting. Now, if you want to, let's say if you're like me and you've downloaded high, you tried high, it really impacted your performance, and now you're not sure which foliage to drop in here, because if you go to Megascans and you go to 3D plants, you can see under foliage I've got a whole lot of these here. You're not sure which one's which one's high, which one's low. You're looking for a keyword that says LOD. LOD stands for level of detail. 0 indicates the highest, 1 indicates a little bit lower than this, and then 2 lower, and then 3 even more lower. So you can see up here we've got LOD 0. There's a whole set of these that are LOD 0 till about here, and there's a few more that are LOD 1. These are the ones that I am going to use, because you're going to see here. I'll just show you a quick demo of this. I hope this doesn't take too much time in the video. I want to keep it as short as possible. But you can see over here, these are the LOD ones that I'm painting, right? So I'm just going to remove all of these, and I'm going to paint LOD 0 over here. So I'm going to go ahead And I'm going to, these are all LOD01s and I've just got them all selected, and I'm just going to go paint at 1500 at a paint density of, let's say, 0.1, right? So I'm just going to go hit paint and I'm going to drop these all in here, and you can see my FPS starting to tank. It's already at 25 and you can see it's just gone. So if you want to use foliage and you want to get a really good experience out of your environment, I would say keep an eye on the LOD setting that you're using for your foliage. If I use LOD 1, for example, let me just make this a little smaller. So we'll go for LOD 1. And over here, what I'm going to do is let me just close this content browser and select all of them. And I'm going to go ahead and drop these, and you can see the impact is a lot lower on my project. So let's not use all of them, and definitely not a page density of 0.1. I'm going to use 0.01, and I'm just going to go ahead and kind of pepper this area with a few meshes around. Now you don't want to pepper the entire thing, because if you think about it, plants would usually grow around. There's not enough irrigation here. I mean, I don't know if it rains in this world, but we're just going to have plants live on the outside, and then we're just going to put a few plants down the middle. Now if you want to put a few plants down the middle, what you can do is single instance mode, and then you can say cycle through selected, and then whenever you click, it'll kind of spawn 1 or 2 plants there. And then if you want to have like maybe a few living growing together, you can have 1 or 2, and then you can just kind of go in and place these however you want to place them, right? So have fun with this. Again, like I keep saying, enjoy your first environment. If this is your first, have fun with it as much as you can. But yeah, just kind of place a few in the middle, because we want to show more growth on the outside. Now once you're done with this, you can hit play, and yeah, you've got some foliage in your environment, and you've also got some random foliage in the middle. And yeah, so let's go over to foliage, and let's go to erase, and maybe let's drop some of this just a little bit. Okay, and then we can see this is looking a little better. Now that's how you put foliage. It's pretty simple. You're going to go and add your foliage in here, and then paint it, and that's just going to give you some plants that you can work with. Now the next thing we're going to do is actually going to work on a hero object over here, because let's say if this is an area that is kind of where your character is going to come through maybe a cave or something, and then there's a boss fight that happens here. So you want to have some an object that kind of adds more to the space. Right now it's just an empty area over here. So let's go ahead and make kind of this sort of an archway over here. So to do this inside of Unreal Engine, we're just going to go over to our modeling mode, and in the modeling mode over here, we're just going to click on box, and we are just going to drop in a box that's on the ground. Now what it does by default, it's going to rotate the box a little bit to kind of be tilted towards the ground, you know, at what angle it hits the ground when you spawn the box there. I don't really want that right now, so I'm just going to reset this to its normal default rotation, and then go back into modeling, and then I'm just going to click on poly ed over here, and then just drag it out, click on the face, drag it up. So click on the face, drag it up. I'm clicking and dragging on the blue and now the green icon here, just to constrain this this change to one axis. So let's make it maybe this big, and let's make it about this high. So accept, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and, again, we don't want any of these edges here, so we're just going to go and place this on the ground, maybe a little bit further back, something like, I think this is fine actually. And I still feel this is a little short, so we're just going to go back to poly ed, and then let's just make it this big, right? So let's go see what that feels like, because scale is very important when you're making something like this. So let's just go into our normal view mode, and let's see what that looks like if the height feels right to us. So let's go back in here. Yeah, that looks kind of large, but I think we could go even bigger, right? So let's go back into modeling, poly ed. Let's make this a little wider and a little taller. Let's hit accept. I'm going to exit modeling mode, and let's see what that feels like. So let's go back here. Yeah, this feels like a mega structure right now, or a monolith, right? I still feel maybe it's a little too large now. So we're just going to go to poly ed, click here, move this down a little bit, and we're good to go. Now let's just increase the thickness a little bit, something like this. because it doesn't, don't want it to feel unnatural, right? So something that would be made of maybe stone or something, and would be here in this particular canyon. So now we've got our base structure ready to go. The next thing we have to do is we have to carve out a section of this because it's an archway, right? Now in the world of 3D modeling, this is done using a very a range of techniques, but we're just going to use simple booleans here instead of Unreal. I'm just going to first go and in fact what we'll do is I'm just going to make another box. Let's just go and exit modeling mode. Let's go back up here to the transform and reset it. So again, I don't want it to be tilted in any way. And then I'm going to go back into modeling mode, poly edit, and then let's just make this a little wider. So this box that we're making now, this second box, is going to serve as our cutter. That's going to cut a hole in the main mesh, right? So we're just going to extrude this all the way out, and you know, this is going to serve as the base of the arch. Okay, and again, even with the underlying piece, I'm just going to have it go all the way down. So we have our cutter. Now to cut through this mesh, what you're going to do is you're going to select you know, A and B, the first mesh and the second mesh, and then you're going to go on to mesh bool, MSH or whatever, mesh bool. Click on this and it's going to do this. Now you either want A, B or A minus B, and you'll get something like this, and then you can hit accept. So it's quite simple. It'll take a moment to process, but you get now an archway inside of Unreal. Now I want that sort of curved archway on top. So I'm just going to go and add a cylinder up here, hit complete. I'm just going to scale this up a little bit. Now I've clicked on, I use the shortcut R for the scale tool. You can just go up here and click on these as well. Let's just make this a little larger, put it all the way through, and then let's just scale this up to a point that we are happy with. Now, this looks okay for now. I'm just going to go and again repeat the process, click both of these, mesh bool, and it's going to cut a hole in it, and we get something like this. Now, if you're not happy with this, you could move it before you hit accept. You can move it a little bit lower to get maybe whatever type of architecture or look and feel you want from this particular piece. And then when you're happy with it, you're content, you're saying this is the size of the structure I wanted, I'm good with it. So then you can hit accept, and that's going to then commit the changes to the underlying geometry. Now with this good to go, we have sort of a monolith here that, you know, our players will see. But if you were to go and now put some texture on this by default doesn't really have any texture mapping on it. So you can remedy that quite quickly by clicking on your newly carved out object and just go and hit unwrap, and you can see it's going to give you these very, very basic this checker texture, which will let you know that the UV mapping on this has been processed. Now what we can do is let's go over to our our Megascans, and let's grab something that looks like it's made out of stone. I think I already added this castle cobblestone, so I just went and chose this one. And so if I go to Megascan surfaces, you can see castle cobblestone is there. I'm just going to click on this, and rather click on my mesh, and then I can just go and say use selected asset from content browser, and I get something like this. Quite straightforward, quite nice, and we get something like this. Maybe rotate it a little bit more facing the player, and you can see now if I was to go and hit the play button, we have this large mega structure over here that may indicate that something interesting is about to happen in our game. Now regarding the mega structure, there's one issue you may run into, which is the tiling on this particular structure. Now remember, the way we change tiling on the landscape, you can even do it on this material. So when you apply the cobblestone, if you feel there are this stone material, if you feel that the tiling is wrong, you can double click on this over here, or you can double click, go into your Megascans, surfaces, castle, cobblestone, double click here, and you can then do the same thing again. I'd of course change the tiling over to 5 to get it to work. But if it's looking like this for you, not this, but if it's looking like this for you, which is large, you can mimic my settings and just use 5 and 5 there. Okay, so we've got our structure, everything's looking good. Now we can go ahead and add more Megascans. I actually went and downloaded some of these statues here. So we're just going to go and place those in and have some fun with them as well. So Megascans, 3D assets, and then Roman statue. I'm just going to go and drag one of these. It's tiny right now, so we're just going to go and scale these up a little bit. So under the scale setting here, I'm going to go 5 or 10. Maybe let's even go 12 with this, not 15. Ooh, that looks interesting. Okay, so we'll go with 15. Again, place it wherever you want it to be, whatever you have in mind. You don't have to also just only use these statues like I'm using. You can go ahead and get anything you want, really. Stylus, however you want to. I'm just trying to go with whatever feels interesting. So we have one statue on the left, and then maybe the statue on the right, it's fallen down because of whatever reason. Maybe push a little bit in the ground there. So we have like this fallen statue over here. Now the colors are a little bit different. If you want to fix the colors again, like we did with the texture on our monolith here, you can double click on the texture, the material rather, that comes on this particular Megascan, or you can just go and find it in the folder that you would have been shown after you've added it to your project. So if you double click here, you can actually go and do the albedo tint setting is the one you're looking for. Check that on, double click on the color, and then you can just go and kind of fix the color to kind of match what we've got going on here. Maybe something like, feel needs to be, maybe something like, I'm just trying to eyeball it here. Yeah, I think that's fine. Something like that. And then because they're both using the same material, they'll be okay. And we now have some statues as well. I also went and downloaded this castle floor structure over here, this little piece of geometry. And again, like we've been doing with our other things, this maybe scale it up to a value of 5 or 7. And you can just go and kind of add some flooring here. Now, something interesting that you will feel with the, I'm just going to rotate this to break symmetry a little bit. You will notice that there's this ditch here, right? There's this little sort of underpass between this over here. You can fix this by going back into landscape and then taking your sculpt tool, take down the radius of this a little bit, and then you can just kind of, change the intensity to maybe 0.1, and then you can slowly kind of fill this up here, like so. Right, so you can fill this up, and then let's go see the back as well. Yep. So we can just kind of, fill this up. So to close that hole over here, like so, right? So we've got some, these castle ruins down here. And then of course you can go and have as much fun as you want with this. In the finished one that I did, sort of the practice run I did earlier, I even went and not just using the foliage ones, I even went and I got some of these, plants here, scale them up a little bit, so maybe 5 and maybe something like 3, and just kind of place them in here just to indicate some growth. Again, the main thing that I'm doing here is I'm trying to hide this harsh line, these lines that exist. Over here you can see, for example, there's this harsh line here. Of course you can fix this in Unreal with real-time virtual texturing, but right now we don't have that. We're just keeping it very simple, and just so that anyone can kind of go and put 2 statues before a monolith here, and then say that we've made something in UE. So we've got something like this now. And then the final thing that we're going to do before we wrap this up is we're just going to fix our sun. Let's just change the sun, move it over. Again, Control L. I'm moving it over here just to kind of have it pass through this. And if you're looking for these Godrays that you see in some environments, what you can do is you can go over to your sun. So directional light is the sun over here. So under lighting, you have directional light. And then what you can do is you just want to scroll down in your details panel, and you want to get down to where it says light shaft bloom. So I'm just going to check that on, and it's going to then have these God rays come through. And then as you dynamically move your sun, it's going to then react accordingly. But you can use this to kind of, build some mood into your scene, if, to get that look and feel that you want when someone is, checking out your scene. And then once you're done, hit the save icon, hit play, and you've just gone ahead and you've used foliage, you've used the modeling tools, you've used a lot of Megascans. And of course, I just kept this as basic as possible, but you can go as far as you want with this and have fun with it. The main thing is to have fun. Don't worry too much about making a photoreal, completely fleshed out environment. It's your first time with Unreal, hopefully, or your second or your third time, and you're just using this as a warm up. But have fun and just try to see how you can make this environment within these constraints interesting, or you can try and use the principles you've learned in this tutorial, hopefully that you've learned in this tutorial, to hopefully take this further. Before I go, some last things that we'll talk about. If you want to change how the clouds look, you can go over and select, for example, the volumetric cloud over here, and there's a few settings that you can tinker around with. Let me just go up and show you some of these. So you can do layer bottom attitude, so the clouds are lower or higher. You can do all of these settings. You can have fun with it, but have fun, enjoy it, and then you can use what you've learned here and apply it to some of the other brilliant stuff that exists on YouTube. And let me know in the comments, if any, what you thought about this, if it was useful, if it was not, and if you'd like to see more of these. We're hoping to put more of these up on the channel in the future. Just some general Unreal stuff. But yes, see you in the next one.